All right, welcome everyone. Go ahead and find your seats. The house lights are dimming now, and the curtain is about to rise. Tonight, we're presenting something a little different. It's a kind of speculative theater, pulled right from a piece of fan fiction. So get comfortable, because you're in for a really peculiar explainer.
So what you're about to experience is really a stage show for your mind. Think of us as your audio describers for this strange and, frankly, epic saga. And it's a story that begins, as so many great dramas do, not with a hero, but with a single, abandoned part, just lying forgotten on the floor. Okay, let's just dive right into the main question here. Have you ever really thought about it? You know, in the heat of a big battle, a limb gets lost, a lightsaber seals the wound, and our heroes just move on. But what actually happens to the parts that get left behind? Specifically, tonight we're asking, what happened to the limbs of the Skywalker men?
And so our play begins. Act 1, the epic tragedy of NTT. This first part is a dark tale, a story all about vengeance and a really bizarre rebirth. And it all starts with the very first limb Anakin Skywalker ever lost. So let's picture the scene. The duel with Count Dooku is over. Anakin is defeated. And just lying there on the cold metallic floor is his right hand. The source material describes it as still pulsating, squirting blood with its last little twitches of life. It's discarded, totally forgotten, but here's the thing, it's not dead. It's still crackling with the Force, just teeming with midichlorians that have one single powerful intention, to survive.
Now, this is where things get really weird. A simple cleaning drone comes along and just scoops up the hand, treating it like any other piece of garbage. But when its compactor starts to engage, something pushes back. This fleshy mass resists. You can just imagine this energy vibrating, blue light shooting through the drone's joints. And then, boom, a massive burst of blue static electricity, and suddenly the hand is floating, surrounded by 1,000 mechanical parts, all held in this invisible gravity. And out of that explosion, a brand new being emerges. We'll call it NTT. Try to picture a lanky, 5-limbed metal spider. It's now a conscious entity, an outer skeleton of metal that's been fused with the flesh and midichlorians of Anakin Skywalker. And it has one single burning goal, to find its former body and become whole again. So NTT starts stalking its former self, who is now the terrifying Darth Vader. It hides in the shadows like a ghost of the past, just fueled by this seething rage. Its thoughts are the storm of betrayal. I mean, how could it be, and I quote, so easily discarded and left to rot on the floor, then replaced without remorse, and I'm swept up with the garbage? This feeling of rejection just twists its desire for reunion into a pure quest for vengeance. And that brings us to our next scene. We're on the fiery planet of Mustafar. You can feel the heat and hatred in the air. This is it. This is the big duel. Vader, in all his arrogance, confronts his old master, and he loses. Badly. His remaining organic limbs, his left arm and both legs, are sliced off, left charred and abandoned right by a river of flowing lava. For Vader, it's his lowest point. But for NTT, this is the opportunity it's been waiting for.
You can just see NTT scuttling out of the shadows, its metal legs clicking on the volcanic rock. It gathers all the charred limbs one by one, snatching them from the edge of the magma. Then, in a hidden cave, using scavenged parts from wrecked battleships, it starts its dark work. We see it weaving together this grotesque cocoon, a festering, gestating sack of metal and flesh that pulses with this unnatural light, drawing power right from the planet's molten core. And inside, something new is growing.
After some time, the sac starts to convulse violently, and then it just bursts open. And from this thick, sticky goo, a new figure rises. And in this synthesized, menacing voice, it speaks its very first words, declaring its new existence. NTT I am. I see. I live. I am NTT.
And here we have it, the final form. NTT-Y is born. It's this tall, lanky, but incredibly powerful humanoid figure. Its skin shimmers, this perfect, eerie mix of metal and flesh. And when it smiles, it reveals this terrifying row of jagged, sharp, shimmering metal teeth. A completely new, mythic being, forged from all the broken pieces of Anakin Skywalker. And now, a complete tonal shift. The stage transforms, the lighting changes. Prepare yourselves for Act 2, the slapstick farce of the second son. The tragic, almost operatic journey of Anakin's limbs now gives way to the absurd, comical, and ultimately just as consequential story of Luke Skywalker's hand. So, we're in Cloud City. Vader has just lopped off Luke's hand. It's falling, tumbling down this massive shaft. But then, for just a second, something amazing happens. The hand spreads its fingers, catches the wind, and for one brief, glorious moment, it glides. It has this moment of fearless, total freedom in flight. And, well, that freedom lasts for about a second. Thoop! Just like that, the hand gets sucked sideways into a dark, roaring air vent. Its graceful flight comes to a very sudden, very unceremonious end. You have to picture the physical comedy here, right? The hand is just getting slammed through this narrow shaft, hitting every wall, every corner. Smack, bang, slap, thud. It's like a pinball made of flesh and bone, completely at the mercy of the station's ventilation system. After this brutal pinball journey, the hand is shot out of a vent. And where does it land? Directly into an alcoholic blender. And before it can even register what's happening, someone flips the switch. Vroom, vroom, crunch. It's quickly turned into this luminous green slush. So let's just take a moment here to compare these two fates, shall we? Anakin's discarded hand becomes NTT-Y, this mythic, powerful protector of life. And Luke's hand, it becomes the secret midichlorian-rich ingredient in a cocktail called a grasshopper, which is immediately served to a very thirsty bounty hunter by the name of Arthur Podion. What happens next is just this cascade of pure misfortune. Arthur Podion gets a terrible stomachache from his very potent drink. This indigestion causes him to fall asleep at the controls, and, you guessed it, he crashes his ship right into Jabba the Hutt's palace. An absolutely furious Jabba doesn't bother asking questions. He sentences both the bounty hunter and his poor captive to be fed to his Kraken monster. And this brings us to our wild, unbelievable climax. Now, you might think the story of Luke's hand ends right there, in the belly of a beast. But you would be wrong. Those midichlorians are survivors, and their journey is about to take an even more improbable turn. A whole planet is about to wake up. Yes, you are reading that slide correctly. After digesting, the bounty hunter, the Kraken monster, relieves itself. And this is not just any old waste, it is, and I'm quoting the source material here, the universe's most powerful fecal matter, now packed with millions of potent, living midichlorians from Luke's hand. Let's just trace this absolutely bonkers chain of events. The hand is blended, the drink is drunk, the drinker is eaten. The monster's waste is unceremoniously dumped on some polluted planet the Empire uses as a garbage heap. There, insects and little creatures eat it, and the midichlorians spread all the way up the food chain, infecting every single living thing until the entire planet becomes conscious. And this newly sentient planet is, understandably, not very happy about being a galactic dumping ground. In this incredible act of self-defense, it fights back. The mountains themselves become weapons, the rivers turn into cannons, and the very vines of the planet lash out with incredible speed and intention. Those polluting imperial powers, they don't stand a chance. Boom, boom, they are ripped to shreds in a glorious fire. So the whole point here is this incredible parallel. Both Skywalker limbs, even though they were just discarded and forgotten, didn't just fade away. Anakin's limbs combined to create NTT-Y, a mythical being protecting life from the shadows. And Luke's limb, through a much, much more absurd path, gave birth to a conscious, victorious planet. In both cases, these terrible losses ultimately created new, powerful forms of life in the universe. And that is where our little play concludes. With the fall of the curtain, the source material leaves us with this one last, provocative thought. NTT-Y is still out there. A myth, a ghost, traveling between the graveyards of destruction, a continuous disruption to the forces of doom. So, the story of the life that is NTT-Y is yours to imagine. What do you think happens next?
So, what if I told you that the single most powerful, planet-conquering entity in the entire sci-fi universe wasn't a dark lord or some sprawling empire?
Okay, listen.
Yeah, and it wasn't a glowing energy weapon either. It was actually a severed hand that accidentally got dropped into a frozen margarita blender.
I mean, that sounds like an absolute fever dream, just completely unhinged.
Right.
But, looking closely at the material we're diving into today, it's actually this radical rejection of the classic hero's journey.
Oh, absolutely.
It forces us to look squarely at the messy biological collateral damage of all these grand, sanitized space operas we know so well.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are exploring a truly wild piece of source material today. It's a 2022 fan fiction story by Ryan Dillon Brassington, and it's titled, What Happened to the Limbs of the Skywalkers?
Such a specific question to ask.
It really is, and we are tackling this in a very specific way for you today. I want you to imagine we are sitting in the front row of a bizarre Midnight Fringe Festival stage play adaptation of this story. Oh, I love this framing.
Yeah, we are your theater audio describers. Our mission is to paint a vivid picture for you of the physical comedy, the grotesque practical effects, and the total slapstick action happening on this imaginary stage right in front of us.
Which is incredibly necessary for a story like this, right? Because mainstream sci-fi lore gives us these billion-dollar cinematic universes where a laser sword cleanly cauterizes a wound.
Right, no blood, no mess.
Exactly. The camera just immediately pans up to the hero's stoic face. But fan fiction, it allows writers to explore the grotesque and the absurd. It reclaims that power from corporate narratives.
It totally does.
This text asks a really fascinating biological question. What if the high midichlorian count in a space knight's discarded flesh gave that flesh a conscious, desperate will to survive?
So, if standard lore is this grand space opera, this is the messy, prop-heavy, avant-garde puppet show version.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
Okay, so picture this. The stage plunges into total darkness.
Setting the mood. Yeah, and then a single, harsh red spotlight snaps onto the floorboards right at center stage. And right there, pulsating in the dim light, is a hyper-realistic silicone prop hand.
Just sitting there alone.
Just sitting there. We are in the immediate aftermath of a massive battle. An evil count has just severed our young hero Anakin's right arm.
And the text describes this wound so vividly.
It's visceral, it's limp, but the charred stump is literally convulsing on stage. It squirts fake stage blood with this final desperate twitch of life.
Which is brilliant because the author immediately establishes this tension between arrogance and biology.
How so?
Well, Anakin just walks away, fully believing he could replace the weak limb with machinery. He views his own organic body as disposable.
Right, just swap it out for parts.
Exactly. But the hand itself, saturated with those microscopic midichlorians, has an entirely different agenda.
And here comes the physical comedy. So an actor in a clunky, gray, boxy costume enters from stage left. This is the cleaning drone.
I can just picture the costume. Cardboard boxes painted silver.
Totally. The actor is pantomiming these jerky, robotic movements, rolling up to the severed hand. It carelessly scoops up the foreign contamination and tosses it into a back compactor.
But things don't go smoothly.
No, the compactor jams. The actor playing the drone starts doing this hilarious, glitchy physical stutter, just vibrating aggressively.
The physical acting required for that must be exhausting.
It would be. And the script literally demands the sound effects out loud. The actor's going bleep bop beep beep pitty back. The compactor is trying to crush the fleshy mass, but the flesh is fighting back.
And to understand the mechanics of this universe, we really have to look at how midichlorians are reimagined here.
Right, they aren't just magic dust anymore.
No, they aren't just mystical conduits for a cosmic force. Think of them like an aggressive extraterrestrial slime mold.
Oh, wow. Gross but accurate.
Right. When they're severed from a central nervous system, they panic. They operate as a microscopic hive mind, generating localized electromagnetic fields to resist the crushing force of that compactor.
So the lighting on stage goes absolutely frantic at this point. Strobe lights flash in blinding blue and white.
The visual overload.
Yeah. A massive practical explosion of static electricity bursts from the drone's chassis. And through some incredible stage magic, probably like invisible wires, 1,000 mechanical drone parts lift into the air.
Hovering above the stage.
Exactly. They slap and fuse directly into the bloody flesh, creating this glowing, jagged metal cocoon. And what emerges from this wreckage is horrifying.
It's a total transformation.
It's a lanky, thin, 5-limbed metal spider skittering across the stage, and it calls itself NTT.
Which is such a striking visual metamorphosis. It perfectly mirrors the biological adaptation happening inside.
Yeah, tell us about the biology of that.
Well, the exposed nerves literally infuse with copper wiring to provide an electrical pulse for the pumping blood. The drone's armor plating becomes a defensive shell.
Oh, so the fingers.
Yes. The severed fingers literally reorient themselves into legs for mobility. The flesh is using the technology to compensate for its new vulnerability.
Okay, hold on, though. I am struggling with the logic of this entity's master plan for a second.
What do you mean?
Well, NTT just birthed itself from a scrap heap using lightning and localized gravity, right?
Right.
So it's essentially, Wally meets the thing. It is highly conscious. But instead of marching off to conquer a star system or build an army, it just becomes a creepy shadow.
It's very passive, superficially.
Yeah, the text says it spends its time just following Vader around the galaxy, hiding in the folds of his dark cloak. Why does this ultra-powerful being settle for being a stowaway?
We really have to look at the psychological layer the author is weaving into this biology. NTT isn't just a random spider.
What does it represent?
It represents Vader's discarded childhood ego.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The text notes that Vader constantly feels this phantom presence over his right shoulder. It's a shadow of the vulnerable organic boy he used to be.
So it's tethered to him emotionally.
Exactly. NTT is enraged because it feels replaced by lifeless, cold mechanisms. It lingers because it's a ghost desperately seeking to become whole again by staying near its source.
So it's basically a manifestation of repressed trauma clinging to its host.
That's a great way to put it.
And that lingering trauma finally gets its moment to act when we transition to the volcanic planet of Mustafar.
The climax.
The set design for this duel is pure sensory overload. The stage is bathed in harsh orange and red gels. Smoke machines are billowing thick fog across the front rows.
You can practically smell the sulfur.
You really can. And during the climax of this battle, Vader is absolutely dismantled. He loses his left arm, both of his legs, and I'm quoting the text directly here, one half of his testicular sac.
It's just the absolute destruction of the human form. The organic is stripped away, leaving almost nothing behind.
The prop department for this play is working overtime, I swear. Silicone body parts are rolling across the slanted stage, bouncing toward a glowing red trapdoor that represents the lava river.
It's a complete massacre of limbs.
It is. But from the smoky shadows, NTT pounces. The metal spider scrambles across the stage, snagging every single discarded piece of flesh just before they fall into the flames.
The biological imperative scales up here. NTT drags these fragmented pieces into a dark, hollow cave.
Setting up the next big scene.
Right. And the mechanics of what happens next are fascinating. The midichlorian hive mind realizes it now has access to a massive amount of organic material, including powerful human hormones.
But it's exhausted, right?
Exactly. It lacks the energy to rebuild itself. So it taps into the geothermal energy of the Mustafar magma.
So the stage crew wheels out this massive, grotesque set piece. It's a gestating sack, built from old battleship parts, pumping with magma, and stuffed with the rescued organic material.
That sounds so gross.
Oh, it is. The thing is pulsating. It's jiggling and jolting with violent theatrical convulsions.
Because it's using the heat of the planet and the raw testosterone from the organic remains to incubate an entirely new fruiting body.
A fruiting body? That makes it sound like a fungus.
It basically is. The technology and the biology are baking together into a superior form.
And then the sack violently bursts open center stage. Thick, sticky black liquid spews all across the floor.
The mess on that stage.
The janitors are going to be furious. But an actor rises from the goo. He's playing NTT-Y. He's a tall, broad-shouldered man covered in a sleek metal exoskeleton.
A completely new being.
Yeah, sparking electrical pyrotechnics outline his massive silhouette. He takes the deep breath, flexes his biotechnological body, and lets out this guttural, booming roar, just a massive yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the triumph of the discarded.
Yes.
He picks up a piece of polished scrap metal to use as a mirror. He examines his new form. He sees broad shoulders, a calm face, the perfect synthesis of man and machine.
He turns to the audience and smiles, but the actor reveals a mouthful of jagged, shimmering, razor-sharp metal teeth.
Just a completely monstrous smile.
It's so jarring that NTT-Y actually jumps back in fright at his own reflection. He ducks away from the mirror, terrified by his own face.
Even he isn't ready for what he's become.
But here's my question. He is born of rage, lava, and raw power, right? He's the ultimate vigilante. So why doesn't he march out and rip the galaxy apart?
Because his evolution has pushed him past the binary petty squabbles of empires and rebels. He has no political sides.
He just opts out of the war.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
The text tells us he wanders the cosmos as a myth, specifically traveling to the graveyards of destroyed planets.
Oh, interesting.
He acts as a continuous disruption to any impending forces of doom.
Mm-hmm.
Having been born from literal discarded garbage, his only fundamental desire is the preservation of life in all its forms.
Wow. So he becomes this cosmic guardian of the broken?
Exactly.
It's shockingly poignant for a guy born from a pile of severed limbs and a testicle.
It really is when you strip it down.
But the narrative doesn't let us sit in that poignancy for long because the tone shifts violently. We jump to the next generation. The son, Luke, rushes into battle and loses his hand to his father's red beam.
The cycle of violence and amputation just repeats itself.
Like father, like son.
But the environment is different this time. We aren't in a magma cave anymore. We are in a highly sanitized technological communication shaft.
And the audio description here turns into pure, unadulterated slapstick. The hand is severed and begins to fall down this massive, bottomless shaft.
How do they stage that?
It's so funny. A single actor, dressed head to toe in black velvet against a pitch black backdrop, runs around the stage holding a highly detailed prop hand.
That is brilliant stagecraft. The midichlorians inside this new hand realize death by impact is imminent.
Right.
Gravity is the immediate enemy.
So the actor spreads the prop fingers wide to catch the updrafts. The hand starts to glide. It dips left, it dips right.
It's flying.
Yeah, for one glorious theatrical moment, the disembodied hand is flying. It experiences genuine freedom.
Only to be immediately thwarted by the cruel reality of industrial architecture.
THOP. It gets sucked sideways into a dark air vent.
Oh, no.
The actor in black velvet is just hurling this hand against the stage walls, simulating a violent pinball descent.
It's getting battered.
The script maps out the exact sound effects of this structural abuse. Smack, bang, slap, boom, thud, boom.
Just nonstop.
It bounces off ventilation shafts, shatters through a metal grate, and ejects forcefully into a cantina, directly into a working alcoholic blender.
The rapid succession of terrible luck is incredibly jarring.
It's pure Wile E. Coyote slapstick. The blender turns on vroom, crunch, crunch.
That's disgusting.
It blends the hero's hand with a batch of chunky frozen crickets, creating a glowing green grasshopper cocktail.
Of course it does.
But, I mean, I have to call foul on the author here. From a narrative standpoint, isn't this wildly unfair?
Unfair.
Yeah. Anakin's hand gets to become a badass, lightning-sparking cyborg vigilante, and Luke's hand just becomes a glowing green smoothie.
Well, unfair from a human perspective, certainly.
Yeah.
But it perfectly illustrates the ruthless pragmatism of the biological imperative.
How so?
The midichlorians don't care about dignity or cinematic coolness. Even when completely liquefied, chopped up with frozen crickets, and submerged in toxic alcohol, they aren't dead.
They survive that.
Yes. As the text explicitly states, they are simply adjusting to survive. The hive mind is now suspended in liquid, waiting for a new host.
Which introduces us to one of the greatest minor characters ever written, honestly. Arthropodian, the galaxy's most renowned bounty hunter.
Paint the picture of this guy.
The costume design for this actor is magnificent. He wears a prosthetic, oversized chin with a deep cleft. Tusk-like teeth protrude from his bottom lip.
Thoroughly rugged.
He's sporting a massively brimmed cowboy hat and a heavy tweed jacket. He marches up to the robotic bartender, flicks 2 metallic coins onto the counter, and grabs the glowing green grasshopper slushie.
He is entirely unaware that he's about to ingest the liquefied, highly concentrated essence of a skywalker.
The actor leans back and sculls the goo, and we get premium gross-out physical comedy here.
What does he do?
He complains it tastes like garbage. He spills it down his oversized chin, it catches in his coarse chest hair, drips all over his tweed jacket, and splatters onto his heavy boots.
Sassy guy.
Very. And he immediately clenches his stomach. He stumbles out of the bar, groaning loudly, physically shoving patrons aside as his gastrointestinal tract goes into absolute meltdown.
Right, because his body is rejecting the foreign cells. He retreats to his intergalactic battle cruiser, where his latest bounty is locked in a holding cage.
A criminal named Mr. John Lou Vercom.
Exactly.
A guy wanted for destroying the equivalent of a Death Star. Arthur taunts him, calls him turd breath, fires up the ship's thrusters, and then completely passes out in the pilot's seat.
Overcome by the toxic midichlorian-laced drink.
Yep. He's slumped over, drunkenly burping and snoring. While he's unconscious, the actor playing John Lou Vercom performs an incredible piece of physical stage acting.
The escape attempt.
Yes, he literally starts chewing his way to freedom.
He violently rips up the metal floor panels with his bare hands and uses his teeth to bite straight through the ship's live electrical cables.
And the stage erupts into chaos. Flashing red lights, blaring sirens. Arthur wakes up just in time to realize his ship is completely short-circuited.
They're going down.
They are plummeting out of control. The ship crashes directly through 3 floors of Jabba the Hutt's palace, landing smack in the middle of the throne room.
What an entrance. And Jabba, naturally furious at the structural damage, sentences them both to immediate death by feeding them to his giant monster, the Kraken.
The stage crew wheels out a massive, terrifying papier-mâché Kraken head, its jaws open wide.
A giant puppet.
Yeah, it scoops up the bounty hunter and the criminal in one bite. Cronus, T-L-U-K, swallow.
So Arthur is eaten.
He is. And if you are listening to this and wondering how a blended hand survives a Kraken's digestive tract, you have to remember the author's core rule.
The midichlorian hive mind never dies. It just adapts.
Exactly. Which leads us to the ultimate poop joke.
Well, the Kraken has now ingested Arthropodian, who had ingested the glowing green midichlorian smoothie. The concentration of the organism is compounding.
The papier-mâché monster starts wailing in discomfort. It gets a massive stomachache, waddles to the corner of its cage, and relieves itself. Oh, yes. It leaves behind what the author explicitly and proudly calls the universe's most powerful fecal matter.
I mean, it sounds utterly ridiculous on its face.
Completely ridiculous.
But this scatological humor is actually the setup for a massive environmental climax.
How does poop lead to an environmental climax?
The cage cleaners scoop up this highly concentrated, superpowered excrement and transport it to a designated trash planet ruled by the Empire.
Okay, so the stage transforms into a vile mud pit. This planet has been poisoned, stripped of its resources, and treated as a galactic dumpster by the Empire.
But when that superpowered fertilizer lands on the toxic surface, the midichlorians enact a master plan.
What do?
They initiate a hyper-accelerated evolutionary chain. Local bugs come to eat the excrement. Larger insects eat those bugs. Small scavengers eat the insects.
It's moving up the food chain.
Rapidly. The midichlorians rapidly move up the food chain until absolutely everything on the planet's surface, flora, fauna, and fungal networks is infected and linked.
Creating a hive mind.
Yes, they create a unified, evolving, planetary consciousness.
And the staging for this finale is spectacular. The entire planet becomes a brawling entity.
How do you stage a fighting planet?
Actors wearing painted cardboard mountains stand up and literally start throwing heavy haymakers at the Empire's communication towers.
That is amazing.
The text says the rivers shoot condensed, high-pressure liquid directly into the bellies of the imposing forces. Thick green vines whip across the stage with targeted precision.
Just total war.
Boom! Pyrotechnics shatter the Empire's strongholds. Glorious fire and smoke fill the theater. Beneath the blender slapstick and the gastrointestinal distress, this is actually the ultimate environmentalist revenge story.
Take that a step further, though. It's nature weaponizing itself against the industrial complex that tried to murder it.
Wow, yeah.
The planet refuses to be a lifeless stone drained by an arrogant empire. It breaks free from slavery and death.
It fights back.
The midichlorians, starting from a discarded, rotting hand swept up by a cleaning drone, eventually empower an entire dying world to fight back and heal itself.
Let's drop the theater audio describer persona for just a second to look at the absolute roller coaster we just went on.
It really was a journey.
We tracked a twitching hand jamming a trash compactor, transforming into a metal spider, then to a gestation sac in a magma cave, birthing a metal-toothed vigilante.
Don't forget the blended hand.
Right. A flying hand in a ventilation shaft getting blended into a cocktail, to a giant Kraken stomachache leading to a sentient boxing mountain range.
It is a stunning testament to how unrestrained fan creativity can completely shatter standard narrative rules.
It really is. It just goes so far beyond what a studio would ever allow.
It also serves as a profound biological metaphor. While the narrative is wrapped in, grotesque comedy and bizarre theatricality, its core message resonates deeply.
What's the core message for you?
That life, no matter how marginalized, how discarded, or how violently fragmented, will fight tooth and nail to persist. It will use whatever is available, metal scrap, magma, or alcohol, to find a way forward.
Think about every epic sci-fi battle you've ever watched on the screen. Think about those polished, grand space operas.
The ones with the pristine starships.
Yeah. When the camera focuses on the heroes flying away in their shiny ships, what happens to all the messy, discarded pieces of technology and biology left behind in the dirt?
Usually we just forget about them.
Right, but if a single discarded hand or a glowing green puddle of midichlorians in a blender can evolve to take down an empire, What else is out there?
It's a slightly terrifying thought.
Are those abandoned battlefields across the galaxy just giant, silent nurseries waiting to wake up?
It completely reframes what we consider to be the end of a conflict. The remnants of the battle might actually be the seeds of the next one.
So next time you see a clean, cauterized lightsaber cut, don't just look up at the hero's stoic face.
Look down.
Take a moment, look down at the floor. Because the real story, well, the messy, unstoppable, crawling story of survival might just be twitching to life.